What's happening, guys? Happy Monday. I just got back from the gym and I had this idea and I wanted to make a video about it, so it was fresh in my mind. But I was thinking about it while I was at the gym, and I've been thinking about it this past weekend. And, I think the biggest thing that holds guys back in whether it's their dating life or if it's, just moving forward and moving up in the world. And I know for me, it hurt me a lot because I missed opportunities because I just wasn't aligned with who I really was, I would say I was confident and, I'd have people telling me I was doing great, but then I didn't actually believe it. So what I started to realize over the last few years is that, this idea that you have to grow up, that you have to grow out of your, like how you were as a kid, like how your innocence basically, is just complete bullshit. Okay, because I want you to think about something, okay? For all you guys out there that are having a hard time, let's say you're having a hard time talking to people in person, or you're having a hard time talking to girls, or you're just having a hard time really believing that you're good enough. I want you to think about something for a second. When you were a kid, all right, let's just say you were 10 years old, okay? You didn't have any responsibility. You didn't have any priorities. Your parents took care of everything. There was nothing pressing. You were just simply existing. You lived in the moment, okay? You woke up, you ate, you shit, you went to school, you came home, maybe you played video games, maybe you played outside, whatever it is. And as you started to get older, obviously real life kicks in and your responsibilities come into play, and you have to focus on making money and you have to focus on becoming a man. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm saying that as you get older, you have to always remember that you're still that kid. You're still that little kid that was just existing. And I think we lose sight of that as we get older because, society tells us to, grow up and be mature and, you don't need to do that anymore and, stop that and don't do this and it's like, you get to a point where you're like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be this way. Maybe it's not right for me to, be myself. And we're in this like weird point that like with social media and all that, where metrics are everything. If you don't have a lot of money, if you don't have a lot of status, if you don't have this and that, if you don't look a certain way, then you're basically labeled and, you're put in a box. And I think that for any guy out there that's struggling to, find their own sense of identity and find their confidence, just remember that you always had confidence. You were born confident. I know they say that confidence is built, but technically you were born with it because you never really worried about any of the stuff that you're worrying about now. You didn't worry about if girls liked you. You didn't worry about if even other people liked you. You didn't even care if your parents liked you. That's kind of the funny thing about it, is that like we didn't even care if our parents liked us. And then all of a sudden, somebody came along and said, you need to stop doing that. You need to stop being who you are. And you were like, maybe I should be different. Maybe I shouldn't be this way. And I think you have to kind of get back to that childhood mentality where you were just having fun and just living in the present moment. That's really the main thing, is just living in the present moment. And just say what it is you want to say. Okay, I'll give you guys a perfect example. When I was at the gym, I haven't been to this gym in a while. I go to my apartment gym, and I went to my normal gym today, and I saw, obviously I had a lot of the people I didn't recognize, and I was just, I've been cooped up in my apartment. I've been working, and I've been, just like, it's been super cold here, so I haven't really been leaving a whole lot. And when I went to the gym, I just couldn't wait to talk to people. I just couldn't wait to get in there and just, like, I don't know what it was. I just had this, like, burst of energy, So I was just talking to everybody, and I there was no filter. It wasn't like I was thinking about anything I was saying. I was just talking to everybody because I just wanted to. And then there's some people I didn't want to talk to. There's sometimes where you're not going to want to talk to people, and that's okay too. But you just have to do whatever it is that you want to do, and just have your own, way of doing things. And another thing I want to tell you guys is, especially like this goes for dating too. If you're dating somebody and like they ever tell you, like I was dating this woman a few years ago, and I remember I was listening to some music or something that I'd put on some music that I liked, and I remember her telling me, "Is this all you listen to?" And I was just like, well, I mean, this is the music that I like, And I know most guys would be like, well, most guys would probably like get mad and be like, well, what do you mean? Of course this, but here's the thing, like, I almost took offense to it because I was thinking, well, what the fuck does it matter what I like to listen to, and anytime somebody does that, just remember that you don't ever have to change for these people. Like, if you're in a relationship like that where the person is trying to get you to change and they're trying to get you to adapt to whatever it is they want out of the situation, and they might not even be malicious about it. They might just be wanting something out of the relationship that you don't want, and you guys just aren't aligned with your values, and you aren't aligned with the things that you agree with and the things that she likes or the things that you like. But if that's the case, you just have to know that you're not doing anything wrong, okay? People are going to come and go in your life, but you always have to remain the same person. You always have to remain the same man. Don't ever bend. Don't ever change. Always improve yourself, but don't ever change for anybody else. Because the second you change, you lose yourself. You literally lose yourself in the process. And then if that person decides to leave, or that person is out of your life, then you're left with, like the shell of a person that they basically, turned you into. So, this took me a long time to figure out, because like I was like a shapeshifter. I was like always trying to become what other people thought I should be. And then when I finally stepped into like my true masculine identity, I realized that, I don't have to be like everybody else. I don't have to conform to what everybody else is doing, and I'm not worried about what happens either. I'm not worried about the outcome. When you become outcome independent, you stop worrying about what people think. You don't care if you talk to somebody and they don't like you. You don't care if you talk to a girl and she rejects you. You don't care if your parents don't agree with you. You live your life according to your values and your standards, and that's all that matters to you. And the reason I make these videos and the reason I tell you guys these things is because masculine identity is the only thing that you really have as a man. You can't wrap yourself up in all the material stuff and all the other bullshit that you see online. You have to have your own masculine identity, and you have to live each day according to the way you want to live it. You have to just keep pushing no matter what, and don't worry about what anybody says. I would even argue that even if somebody doing better than you criticizes you, I would take it with a grain of salt. If it's constructive criticism, no problem. Okay, I have people in my life that tell me things that I listen to because I know they've been through it. But don't ever think that because they tell you something that you necessarily have to believe them. Okay, we're all human and we all make mistakes. But you'll know because you'll feel it. Like, you'll feel it in your gut if it's right or wrong. Okay, your gut's never going to lie to you. It's never going to tell you that you're doing something wrong. It's always going to tell you if you're doing something right. So like, if you want to talk to somebody or you want to say something, then just say it. Just remember what I said. Think about when you were a kid. Think about how little of a filter you had. Okay? That's what kids do. Kids just don't have. That's why it's so funny, because kids are just, they say the darndest things. You always hear that. Kids say the darndest things. And you just have to remember that when you're going through life and you're having trouble, thinking of what to say. Don't overthink it. Okay? Don't overthink what you should say to somebody, or if you said something wrong. Like if you're texting somebody and you thought you said something, it's okay to clarify what you said, but a lot of times it's not necessary. Okay, like if you're talking to a girl and you say something, and you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, she's either going to respond or she's not. But at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. It's not like you committed a crime. It's not like you did anything, you said anything vulgar. You might have just said something, you might have just misstepped and said the wrong word or something, And if she feels like she took it the wrong way, she'll tell you. But you don't have to overcorrect your behavior all the time. Okay, that's one of the things that I see is like over apologizing and over explaining, and it's like all you need to do is just live your own life and just worry about you and worry about the things that are in your control, and don't worry about the rest. Okay, try to live in the present moment and don't worry so much about the outcome. People are attracted to imperfection. So just become the younger version of you that would, think about what the younger version of you would do. Think about what the younger version of you would say. Think about what the younger version of you would be thinking. And trust me when I tell you, this will absolutely help you move through life a little bit easier, like a little bit swifter, and you'll just kind of go with the flow, Like, don't be so rigid. Don't be so uptight. I only tell you guys these things because this is how I was. This is how I was for years and years and years. I just thought if I just play it cool, then, people will never judge me. And if I just don't talk to this girl, then, she's going to think I'm so cool. And it's like, you just need to loosen up. Okay? Because people are more drawn to you when you're just relaxed and you're easygoing and you're not worried about anything, but you're just kind of in your own little world. You're just worried about your own stuff and you're just focused on what's in front of you, And it's like, I used to feel really insecure going to the gym and stuff like that, and I just kind of get into my own little world, and I just think, man, I'm doing good, I'm doing good for myself. Everything's good. I'm at the gym, I'm trying to better myself, and I'm talking to people, and because a lot of guys will walk around and they're just they're just like kind of moping around, and I'm not criticizing them either. I'm just saying that most people are not like judging you, and most people are not even thinking about you. Most people are just in their own little world. And if you're one of those guys that does that's going out and you're just like moping around, I strongly advise you to just have an open mind and go out, and when you see people, just talk to them. Okay? It doesn't have to be like these crazy videos I see these ridiculous videos on social media where these guys they're like running down the street, or they're like walking down the street. They have to talk to every single person. Okay? Don't ever change who you are. But if you want to be more social and you want to like really like get yourself out there and like really show people who you are, just say what it is that's on your mind. And when you are out in public, that's when it matters the most. And you say what's on your mind, and people are either going to like you or they're not. Or I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and they looked at me funny, like, what the fuck did you just say? But it doesn't really matter. Nobody's criticizing you, nobody's judging you. Like, it's all good. I'm here to tell you it's all good. Okay, take it from somebody who's seen, a lot of different sides of the table here. And, I just want you guys to really just be yourself. Be the best version of yourself, but don't try to like get rid of that childhood instinct, And I think that's kind of what we've lost over the years, and that's why a lot of the dating stuff is hard, because a lot of guys are putting on a performance. They're being performative, and they're not being genuine to themselves and to the girl that they're talking to. And the girls can pick up on this, because girls feel like energy. That's why you see these girls, they talk about crystals and horoscopes and all that stuff, because like they feel energy. They feel that. They don't need like more money, and they don't need more status, and they don't need more flowers. They don't need any of that. They need to feel you. They need to feel that you're genuine. And when they can feel that, when they feel that you're not full of shit and that you're just being you, then they are attracted to that. Okay? So that's just what I want you guys to think about, because and I really hope this helps. I've been getting some pretty good feedback on these videos, and I'm going to keep making them. I'm going to be posting as much as I can, and I hope you guys like this stuff. And if there's a topic that you guys want me to talk about, send me a DM on any of my socials, comment on this video or any of my other videos, and tell me, and I'll make a video on it. And I will try to share as much insight as possible. But feel free to let me know. I'm happy to to make content that you guys like and that you guys can relate to. That's why I make this stuff. So anyways, I'm about to go upstairs, but I hope this helps, and hope you guys have a good rest of the day. All right.